welcome to Catch Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing in the great outdoors, especially down in the most southern region of the continental United States, the Florida Keys. Catch Outdoors is hosted by Spotify, also brought to you by your favorite podcast network. So kick back and get a taste of my Florida. This week's episode of Catch Outdoors is number 127. Wow. Titled Marching Towards Spring. Okay, a play on words. It's almost March. It's almost springtime. I know. I'm having more and more trouble coming up with titles. I toyed with the idea of just doing, Catch Outdoors number blah, blah. And then, of course, the description underneath it appears on all podcast areas. So I may very well do this before the year 3 starts, or year 4. Good Lord, I'm in year 3. I can't believe that. Anyway, so a play on words, marching towards spring. Hello all, good morning, afternoon, evening. Depends on when you're listening. I know you're listening starting on Tuesday at 5 a.m. If you're the early bird, that's when the podcasts are released. And I am recording this on Sunday. And it has been an extremely busy weekend. And then after saying last week nice things about the improving weather, it rained, another front came through, and the winds blew out of the north again, and the temperatures dropped. Woke up this morning, and it was near 49 here at the house. It was like 53. In the Keys. What the hell's going on? I had a lot of 40-degree temperatures in the middle part of the lower part of the state, below Lake Okeechobee. I was looking at the map going, you poor souls. Yeah, so it's also pushed our water temperature down quite a bit. I'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, that's what I get for saying, well, it's looking so much better. And the water temperature's, it's Mother Nature. However, I had a lot of time to do a couple of events this weekend and play in the yard and play in the garden and do things. I will say that it was sunny and nice most of the time. The only time we had any kind of really rotten weather was the first thing on Saturday morning. Like 5 a.m. before the sun came up until about maybe 8:30, depending on where you were in the islands. I'm speaking for Key Largo here, but... and it poured. I mean, the rain we had one of those fronts come through that's just like a line of weather, like a squall line, and then it just went out and disappeared. But man, anyway. So I had a lot of time on my hands. And I did get to do a couple of things this past week that were on the calendar, and I was ready to do it, which we did do, and it was a lot of fun, but I'll get to those also in a few minutes. But again, it's Sunday afternoon. I hope this finds y'all well on Tuesdays, which again is a release day for the podcast. So let's do a weather outlook for the coming week. I made the mistake of doing this last week, so let's do it again and see what happens. And this is based on National Weather Service's, I don't know, there's a word for it, but their discussion. They have a discussion page where they discuss what's coming up and how it should be. And that's where I pull my information from, because as a former fishing guide, it worked pretty well. I don't know if it's working so well this time around, but it worked pretty well back then. Tuesday, when you're listening to this, so I'm going to say Tuesday today, since you'll be listening at least at that point or later, it's supposed to be sunny with a high of 74, but still breezy. Wednesday, a high of 76, Thursday, 75, and Friday, 75. That's the week. Weekend is supposed to be pretty nice, but another front is expected. They didn't pin it down, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday kind of thing, but I did notice that the temperatures were going to hold fairly steady. However, the nighttime temperatures are still in the 60s, so it's still been quite cool. For me, that just means I can't get out there anytime soon. As long as the wind's, I have a small boat. Well, I have a skiff, so it's a small boat, 18-foot boat for backcountry fishing. Bigger boats can get out. Although I did talk to several people over this past couple of days on the big boats, and they said they didn't want to be out there either. So I saw a 7-foot sea marker on one of the reports. I'm like, no, it's not fun. But anyway, This next week is going to be a little busy for me toward the end of the week anyway. So Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going over to Fort Myers for some doctor appointments that I have to go to every couple of months. So I'll be doing that. So that knocks the end of the week out there. And then by the time I get back Friday, I don't want to do anything after driving back and forth. So hopefully Saturday, Sunday. That's what I'm looking at. Somewhere on the weekend. I'm not really fond of going out with a whole lot of people on the water because it is season down here now, and there are a lot of people on the water, on jet skis and the things like that around the resorts. And I try to avoid that like the plague. So I'll just have to gauge it and see what's going on. And also, again, just play the weather. I don't like not going. I miss fishing. I miss getting out on the boat, to be perfectly honest with you. Tides will be good this week, thanks to the recent full moon. It usually hangs on for a good week after the moon, and the moon occurred on the 24th, just a day ago. So the whole week will have decent tides, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that one as well. And now this is a really weird thing. The water temperatures in the backcountry are real close to 70 right now. I looked up a couple of temps this morning just to see what's going on with these cold mornings. These cold. I know cold is relative to where it's cold to us. But 70 out in I checked the Atlantic. I don't usually do that because I'm not going out there till this wind lets down. But the Atlantic temperatures off the Keys are all reading around 69 degrees. That's crazy. If you're going to dive or snorkel, you're going to need a wetsuit, man. And I'm not getting in 69 degree water, period. And I got a couple of reports I got a personal report, and then I got some from just reading, checking out the papers and stuff in the web. And the bite out front's hard. That's what people are saying. The bite out there is tough, I guess, because it's cold enough to drive the bait out to deeper water. Even fishing the hump has been a little tough, which is really weird because the hump that's the place in Islamorada. I'm sorry, up here and in Islamorada for that matter. Those humps are great. I mean, they hold a lot of fish, and they're usually pretty easy as long as you know how to do deep drops. But no, let's see. Except for one thing, I did see one thing amazing, and I got to talk about this because some of you may have seen the post about this. The sailfish bite off of Key Largo has been completely out of control. It is. So far, 2 boats I've seen. One had close to 70 release flags on it for sailfish. That's 70 fish released. And another one this morning had, I believe it was 60. It was either 60 or like 62. So those are charter boats that go out after sailfish. The sailfish are typically released. They don't keep them. So they fly a flag for every one that they release, and they're coming in decorated with flags. I mean, it looks like a cruise ship. It's really amazing. So there you go. See, one man's junk is another man's treasure. And that's a prime example. Let's see. Yeah, and if that happens, I've told people this in the past. You need to know that if you want to really catch sailfish down here in South Florida, this would be like the Miami down into Key Biscayne and here in Key Largo in the Florida Keys. Winter's the time to do it, and the messier it is, the better. If you have high seas of 5 to 7 feet, it's cold, blowing wind, that's when you go. Yeah, I mean, you got to wear it like football padding, but other than that, it's going to work. And obviously that does work because they've got some outstanding. But everybody else was complaining, so let's see what else is on here. Oh yeah, I did have some inshore bite information. A couple of redfish were caught off of up by Cape Sable. No snook. Lots of snapper and the like. That's what the one guy said. I like that, snapper and the like. In other words, small fish, jacks and things like that. Honestly, I'd be happy to get a bite like that because where I fish in the back, the water is basically coming right in out of the Everglades. So there's a lot of fresh mixed with salt up in there, and you get a nice salty tide. That will bring the bait in. Well, the water is so cool, it won't bring the bait in right now. So that makes it tough. But the bite reports for like reds were all the way east. No, I'm sorry, west of Islamorada. So all the way out toward Cape Sable. Let me be perfectly honest here. We need a serious warm up to get the bite going. So those of you that are coming down to fish at the end of February and in the first couple of weeks of March, you need to keep your fingers crossed. We need a warm-up. It's that simple. I'm not going to say you can't catch anything, but it's going to be slow, and you'll have to work for it, or your guide will have to work for it at least the next couple of weeks. So like I said, I'm going to try to get out there this weekend and at least give you some kind of a report and offering. But small boat people and small boat captains are suffering right now. We're at the mercy of wind. I will say this. I did hear a few reports about people catching a lot of fish around the pilings on the bridges. And honestly, that's pretty normal. Now, it's nothing spectacular from what I've read. It's all like the small snapper and just a little barracuda and things like that hanging out. But that's a place they like to hang because no matter what happens with water temperature or even water movement for that matter, little bait fish like to hang out there for sheer safety. They hang out around those pilings and they'll go down deeper if the water's too cold on the surface. So keep that in mind. If you're on foot, you're staying in one of the resorts, and you're just busting to get out there and do a little fishing, you might want to check some of the bridges that we fish on. There's lots of fishing spots on bridges between Key Largo and Key West, so it's not too difficult to get to one of those spots if you got a car, if you got access. So, let's see. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that I did a couple of fun things this past week, so I'll go over those. Thursday evening, Janelle and I attended the 39th annual CCA Keys chapter banquet and auction. For those not in the know, CCA stands for the Coastal Conservation Association, and they're member driven, basically donations and things like that, and of course sponsors to basically keep Florida fishing folks fishing. That's an oversimplification, but that's kind of what it's all about. And since there is a welcome to the CCA evening letter in the banquet brochure, well, it's not really, it's a booklet, it's what it is, by Diane Harborough. She's the chapter president for the Keys. And I thought I'd read this one paragraph out of here because it explains it better than anything else. CCA Florida has accomplished a great deal in the past 30 plus years in its efforts to stop the decline of our precious marine resources. Yet our job is by no means complete. We remain committed to stopping the abuse and waste of our marine resources from illegal netting and fish trapping, to maintain fair and equal access to our public waters for saltwater anglers and their families, and to stop unfair and unbalanced government regulations, and to lasting conservation for our inshore and offshore species. I don't think anything sums it up better than that. There's a lot more to CCA. I mean, they build reefs. They do all kinds of things for the outdoor people. They also support hunting in hunting areas, which doesn't really, you don't hear much about that in the Keys. We don't really do a lot of hunting. We don't do any hunting that I'm aware of. We don't do deer and boar and that kind of stuff. That's go up into the mainland for that. So down here in the Monroe County Keys, it is pretty much a fishing mecca, and there's almost no. I'm not even sure. I'd have to check myself on this, but I have no idea where in the world you would freshwater fish down here, unless there's some weird pond down here that holds water. But maybe on Big Pine, somewhere like that. But most of this is salt water. But I don't want you to think that that's all they do, because they do so much more than that. And we had a really great time. It was fun. It was fun just to see other people there that we knew and know, and we haven't seen in quite a while. That was really, really cool. The food was good. I like to point this out. When you go to these big banquet events, right? Okay, they're serving 300, 400, 500 people, right? It's hard. But I would say this banquet's nowhere near as big as the Fort Myers. Fort Myers banquet, if I remember right, was somewhere between 500 and 600 people, maybe more. Now that they've got the new facility open, I'm not sure how all that works. I haven't been there since they've done that. But here it was probably 250 people. I'm guesstimating. And the main course was ribeyes, and I'm talking about grilled smoked ribeyes. They had a truck outside making them. Boy, let me tell you what, that along with mashed potatoes and a salad was all that. And I was totally surprised. So that was worth the price of admission. And of course, the booze is all complimentary. So booze and beer are complimentary. Obviously, they want to loosen you up a little bit, so you'll bid on everything. The The featured artist was Pasta Pantaleo, and I am a big Pasta fan. I do not own any of his art. Pasta, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. I do now. No, I didn't auction bid it, or I didn't get it at a table. He was there signing artwork and handing it out for free, which is really cool, and doing very personalized signatures on it, which I absolutely love. So Jonelle and I each got one, and each one's different. So we now officially have some Pasta art, which we're going to have to frame and figure out where to put it, because those that have been to our house know we're just going to have to put some in storage and rotate and move our pictures around is what we're going to have to do, but that's okay. Our artwork for us is a very, very bad habit. I mentioned just a few minutes ago about seeing old friends there and things like that. It was nice talking to Rick Murphy. He and I have done, off and on, had done fishing seminar type shows, especially on the Southwest coast in Naples at the Naples Boat Show. He and I did a couple things there, and it was just good to sit down and talk to him. He's such a nice guy, and he's funny as hell. I will tell you that right now. Adam Miller was there. He is CCA Fort Myers. He was one of the guys that I was in contact with constantly as we rolled toward the anything that had to do with CCA through the radio. At that time, I was doing radio for the ESPN local network, Real Talk Radio in Fort Myers. And he was my contact to make sure that the message got out that CCA was coming to town. You need to buy tickets, you need to get out there, and you need to support it, that kind of thing. And so it was nice to see Adam. And it was interesting to see that he came all the way down from Fort Myers into the Keys to help the local people there that work that chapter, help them work the Florida Keys banquet. Anyway, a fun night. No, we didn't buy any art, but we did win at an auction. But I'm not going to talk about it right this minute. I'm going to wait till next week. We're ironing out all the details. Whoa. And moving right along, on Saturday we had a delicious breakfast with family at the Mrs. Mack's Kitchen in Key Largo. That's the first time I've been to Mrs. Mack's, either one of them. I really didn't know this. The Mrs. Mack's I've always associated with is in the center of right where the road divides. When you're going through Key Largo and you're almost out of Key Largo, heading south, the road divides to where you can't see the other traffic going north. And there's a Mrs. Mack's there on that island. And I thought that's what we were talking about. There is a what they call Mrs. Mack's Small Kitchen in Key Largo on the Bayside. And that's where we went. And what a great place. Crazy busy with breakfast in the morning. Delicious. The omelet I had was really good. There was a huge plate of biscuits and gravy brought in and put on the table so that everybody could split and have some. Also delicious. I didn't eat it. I'll be honest with you. I was too engrossed in this wonderful omelet I had, but I was told it was delicious, so I'll go with that. And then after breakfast, we headed south to Islamorada for the annual gigantic nautical market. It used to be called the Nautical Flea Market, but it's not really a flea market because there's a lot of new items and stuff like that. Along with, there are flea market items there. There are a great big booth set up with all kinds of boat parts, rods, reels, older equipment, new equipment, used equipment, stuff like that. But there are also many, many more vendors there doing the latest and greatest stuff. But the word gigantic is probably a slight understatement. I know that by the time we got finished walking the whole event site, my feet, legs, and hips were aching. It was really. I don't remember looking at the steps on my watch. I try to avoid those software, but the apps. I don't really want to know how far I walked. It might scare me, but it was really something. The nautical theme was all throughout the place. I think it was fishing equipment, boats, lots of boats, and every kind of boat, every kind of boat accessory you could possibly think of, clothing for the outdoorsy fishing person or the outdoorsy hunter or just somebody that likes to stay outdoors. All kinds of great fun T-shirts and, the usual things that you would see at a sporting show. Jewelry, some beautiful ladies' jewelry. Ooh, terribly tempting for the ladies. Nautical antiques, which I like personally, and some fantastic collectible ship brassworks. Like lanterns and things like that, or ship's lights and ship's wheels and things like that. There were a couple of those out, a couple of big booths like that with that kind of stuff set up in them. Oh, yeah, we saw Coach Jimmy Johnson, too, strolling by. That generally only happens when you go to an event in the Islamorada area. He's got a home here. So that was kind of cool. And then I mentioned old friends from the night before, and I have to mention it again. Anissa was there. And for those of you, your Fort Myers people, your ears perk up and go, oh, I know who she is. Anissa Jewelry. Anissa... Let me back up. She makes wonderful nautical themed like necklaces, bracelets, rings, things like that. And she does her best to go to every single show in the area. A lot of them just in Florida alone that have anything to do with like boat shows or nautical themed type shows. I got to tell you something funny though. She's from Fort Myers, and I remember seeing her at one of the very early Florida sportsman shows there. As a matter of fact, I was a seminar speaker covering tarpon, usually covering tarpon at those shows. And I did it quite a few years. She had one little table there at this show. This is the first time I'd seen her. And she had a whole bunch of silver, like what I call, sterling, real silver, hooks for bracelets and for necklaces, mostly for men. Very stylish looking. And she was selling the bejeebers out of those things. I bought one for myself. And yep, now all these years later, and I mentioned this to her when she was at the nautical flea market. All these years later, she is just queen of the nautical jewelry. The guys, don't worry, she's still got the hooks and she's still got the hook necklaces. And if the guys, you want the manly thing, she's definitely got it. And they really are cool. But the ladies, you ought to see what this gal has. It's incredible. If you like things that are like seahorses and dolphins and octopus and all that kind of stuff, she has something created out of silver or brass or anything really that you can imagine that looks like the sea or comes from the sea. And let's just say my wife and many other ladies I know are great fans of hers. So for those that don't know about her, check her out on the web. It's Anissa. I wrote it down just to make sure I get this right. AnissaJewelry.com. It's Anisa. It's her first name. AnissaJewelry.com. Check it out. She's from Fort Myers. So if you do Fort Myers things, you're bound to see her at a show there if it's got anything to do with outdoors. Let's see, my manuscript with the book is coming along. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking about this on Sunday, Jonelle is finishing up the last chapter or two of doing her. She likes to read over it. She just likes to do a read over and make sure I didn't do any completely disastrous mess ups, but she's about got it. So I'm hoping by the end of this coming week, I will be able to get this thing out to the publisher, get the manuscript out to the publisher. So I've got the photos pretty much selected. I've got a few odds and ends I need to finish up, but we're almost there. Hallelujah. Anyway, my new song, for those of you that don't know, yes, I write songs. I've been writing them for years, but I actually had one published this year. Yay. Oh my God. It only took 30 years, but it works so well. I'm publishing another one, and then he wants another one after that. So I'm very, very happy. Thank you, Billy, very much for taking on my songs. And so we should have that here not too long. We've been working on this one for about a month, so it should be out shortly. I was going through some boxes in the storage room. I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast. I had to pick up a whole bunch of storage stuff from Fort Lauderdale that I left up there in storage on purpose because I couldn't find storage down here in Key Largo. I did find storage. It's smaller, but I was able to transfer stuff down. So I've been going over there and pulling boxes out to help get rid of stuff that... Storage, everybody, you all nod your head at this, right? Storage is just one of those things. We all probably have some form of it, and we all know that it's stuff that we probably really don't need. So I've been going through those boxes, and I found about 25 copies of each one of my previous 3 books, brand new in this box. Never been signed, never been read, never been sold. That's the main thing. Surprise. So I discounted them on the website only. So you have to go to catchyououtdoors.com and you have to go to page 4, which are the book orders, and you'll see each of the 3 books there, and all 3 of them have been discounted. So if you didn't get a copy, or if you can't find a copy you bought, or you want to get a copy for a friend or whatever, there you go. This is your chance. And there are 25 of each of these things. So it gives everybody a good crack at getting one if you want one. So, but do it soon, and I will sign them. So I will sign them before I ship it out. And the price you see on there, believe it or not, will include the shipping. I will send it to you at that price without additional shipping. So you can't beat that. You really can't. And now I believe it's time for useless information.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
And here we go. Let's see. This time around, I was truly looking for very, very useless information. I had a couple of emails this past week saying that from some of the previous podcasts, they were actually useful. We can't have that. So here we go. Number one. These will be short and sweet too, by the way. Very little commentary. Number one. The face of a penny can hold 30 drops of water. You asked for it. Number two, 4,000 people are injured by teapots every year. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself at this point. But number three, this might be useful depending on if you travel. Alaska has more outhouses than any other state. I find that amazing. You would think that they'd want to be inside for that, maybe. And that's useless information for this week. Come on, springtime. I know it's getting close. I see ads. Close. I can talk. Close. I see ads on TV for NCAA March Madness. You've probably seen them. We're getting there, man. I'm a college basketball fan. And also saw one from the Masters Golf Tournament. Sure signs that spring is almost here. I've tried to put away my long sleeve t-shirts twice now, and I have to keep on dragging them back out. I know those of you way up north have very little sympathy for Floridians and the Keys, but our blood is much thinner than yours. Really, really and truly, it is. So stay warm, okay? Stay warm up there. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Facebook page is Catch Ya Outdoors. The website is catchyaoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and a schedule of what's to come. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.